There will come a day when you look in the mirror and realize the greatest battle of your life isn't against the world, it isn't against your circumstances, it isn't against the people who doubted you. It's you against yourself, and that's the moment everything changes, because the truth is, life doesn't always challenge you with storms, failures, or obstacles. Sometimes it challenges you with your fears, your excuses, your limits, your old stories. The stories that whisper you're not ready, you're not strong enough, you'll fail again. But here's what most people forget. Those stories are not there to break you, they're there to reveal you. Every time you choose to rise when it's easier to stay down, every time you take one more step when your body says stop, every time you push past the voice inside begging you to quit, you win. Not against life, not against the world, but against the version of you that refuses to grow. There was a time maybe you remember when you were unstoppable, when you didn't care about failing, when you didn't care about judgment. When you didn't ask yourself, can I really do this? You just tried, you just believed, you just went for it. Life didn't make you slower, fear did, doubt did, comfort did, and now you're here standing at a crossroads with two choices, stay who you are or become who you were meant to be. The battlefield isn't outside, it's internal, and every single morning the fight begins again, the fight to stay disciplined, the fight to stay focused, the fight to not sink back into the old patterns that once felt safe but never made you proud. Listen, you don't have to become extraordinary overnight. You don't have to conquer the entire mountain today, but you do have to take one step, just one, because one step becomes momentum, momentum becomes habit. Habit becomes identity, and identity becomes destiny. The world will always have opinions, life will always have unexpected storms, but none of that matters if you win the inner war first, the person you were yesterday. They had doubts, they had limits, they had excuses, but the person you are becoming, they don't bow to fear, they don't crumble in discomfort, they don't stop at good enough, they rise, they endure. They evolve, so today right now make yourself a promise that when the voice of weakness shows up, you will answer with strength. When the voice of fear shows up, you will answer with courage. When the voice of doubt shows up, you will answer with action, because this is your journey, your transformation, your fight. It's not you against the world, it's you against yourself, and when you decide to win that battle, there is nothing on this earth that can stop you. The greatest battle you will ever fight in your life is the one that happens within you. It's the battle between who you are and who you could be, between your potential and your fears, between your dreams and the inner voice whispering that you're not enough. Most people spend years, sometimes their entire lives, thinking the world is what's holding them back. They blame timing, circumstances, lack of opportunities, people who hurt them, or the challenges they never asked for. But the truth is, the world is not your biggest opponent. The world might slow you down, it might test you, it might stretch you to your limits, but it is never the final barrier. The real barrier lives inside you. It's the quiet hesitation. It's the voice that tells you to stay where you are, even when you know you were built for more. It's the doubt that creeps in right before you take a bold step. It's the fear that convinces you to settle for average instead of reaching for extraordinary. Every dream you've ever had, every goal you've imagined, every version of yourself that you know you're capable of becoming, all of it depends on this inner battle. And the moment you realize that, everything begins to shift, because once you understand that your true opponent is not external, you stop wasting energy fighting the wrong things. You begin to see that the fight is not against life, but against the old stories you've been telling yourself for years. Stories like, I'm not ready, I don't deserve it, what if I fail, or people like me don't succeed. These aren't truths. They're psychological barriers that have taken root over time, and they grow stronger each time you choose comfort over courage, each time you stay silent when you want to speak, each time you stop yourself from trying because the possibility of failure scares you. The greatest battle is the battle against your own mind, because your mind is powerful enough to build your future or destroy your confidence. It can be your strongest ally or your most dangerous enemy. And the interesting thing about this internal battle is that no one else sees it. On the outside, you might look calm, composed, maybe even successful. But inside, you might be fighting doubt, overthinking, fear, and insecurity every single day. And that invisible war can be exhausting if you don't learn how to face it, but the beauty of this battle is that once you choose to confront it, once you choose to challenge your inner limitations, once you decide to rewrite the stories that have kept you small, you begin to transform. Not in one giant leap, but step by step, decision by decision, moment by moment. You start to realize that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's choosing to move forward even when fear is screaming at you to stop. Strength isn't something you magically wake up with, it's something you build every time you choose discipline over excuses. Growth isn't a gift, it's a commitment to do the uncomfortable work your old self avoided. And the moment you take ownership of your inner battle, the world starts to open up in ways it never has before, not because the world changed, but because you changed, because you finally decided to stop standing in your own way. Because you decided to fight for yourself instead of against yourself. The world may challenge you, but it cannot defeat you. Only you can do that by giving up, by shrinking, by doubting your worth. But when you rise above your own limitations, when you choose to silence the voice that holds you back and strengthen the voice that pushes you forward, you become unstoppable. Winning the inner battle doesn't happen overnight. It happens every morning you choose to rise, every time you take one more step, every moment you decide that your future is more important than your fear. And that's why the greatest battle is internal, because once you win that one, everything else becomes possible. The stories you tell yourself hold the power to shape everything about your life, and most people never realize how deeply these stories control their decisions, their confidence, and their future. These stories begin quietly. They come from past experiences, childhood moments, criticism you didn't know how to process, failures that left scars, or memories that created fear. Over time, these stories stop being memories and start becoming beliefs about what you can or cannot do, what you deserve, and what kind of life you think is possible for you. And the moment those beliefs settle in, they begin to direct your life without you even noticing. It's not the world that stops you, it's the story in your mind that whispers, "You're not prepared," or "You're not good enough," or "Someone like you could never achieve that." Those stories are powerful because they feel true. They feel familiar and they feel safe, but familiar does not mean right. Safe does not mean fulfilling. Most of the limits you think you have are just stories that have never been challenged, and the moment you start questioning them, you begin to see how fragile they actually are. Your inner stories can either build you or break you. They can give you strength or quietly destroy your confidence from within. When you believe the story that you're not capable, your actions reflect that belief. You hesitate more, you avoid risks, you shrink in the moments you should stand tall, you take smaller steps because you assume you're only meant for smaller things, and without realizing it, your life begins to match the story you keep repeating in your head. But the opposite is also true. When you start telling yourself a different story, one that says you are capable, you are growing, you are becoming stronger every day, your entire behavior shifts. You become more willing to try. You become more resilient when things go wrong. You become more courageous in the face of uncertainty, and little by little, your life begins to rise to the level of the story you choose to believe. Your life always follows your inner narrative. If your story is full of fear, your life will feel limited. If your story is full of excuses, your progress will always feel stuck. But if your story carries possibility, growth, and belief, then everything around you begins to expand. You start to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You start to feel hope where you once felt doubt. You start to move forward even when you don't have all the answers, because your story gives you a reason to trust yourself. What people forget is that these stories are not permanent. They are not written in stone. They can be rewritten at any moment you choose. You have the power to decide that the story of I can't becomes the story of I can learn. The story of I'm not enough becomes the story of I'm growing into someone stronger. The story of I always fail becomes the story of I'm not done yet. Rewriting your inner story doesn't erase your past. It doesn't pretend that challenges never existed. What it does is change the meaning. It allows you to look at your struggles not as proof that you're weak, but as proof that you're still standing. It allows you to see your pain not as something that broke you, but as something that built your resilience. It allows you to view your failures not as endings, but as lessons that have prepared you for the next chapter. The story you tell yourself either limits your life or expands it, and you are the only one with the power to decide which one it will be. The world cannot choose your story for you. Other people cannot choose it for you. Only you can. The moment you decide to rewrite the story in your mind, the story of your life begins to change as well. And once you choose a story that empowers you instead of holding you back, you become unstoppable, not because life suddenly gets easier, but because you finally removed the limits created by old beliefs. When you change your story, you change your identity, and when you change your identity, you change your destiny. Progress doesn't require perfection. It doesn't demand that you wake up one day transformed into the strongest, most disciplined, most unstoppable version of yourself. Real progress begins with one step, just one, and that's the part most people underestimate. They think success is built through giant leaps, life-changing moments, or massive breakthroughs, but in reality, success is born from the smallest decisions repeated consistently over time. It's the little choices you make when no one is watching. It's the extra minute you push yourself when your mind says stop. It's the decision to try today even if yesterday didn't go well. One step may feel insignificant, but it's powerful because it creates movement. And movement creates momentum. When you take a single step toward your goals, something shifts inside you. You begin to build trust with yourself. You start to believe that change is possible. You start to feel capable again. And that belief fuels the next step, and then the next, and suddenly you're moving forward, maybe slowly, maybe quietly, but moving. That's how habits are born. That's how discipline grows, not through intensity, but through consistency. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't even need confidence at the beginning. All you need is the willingness to begin, even if you start small. People often hold themselves back because they think they need to be fully ready before they take action. They wait until the fear goes away, until they have more time, until they feel motivated. But progress doesn't wait for the perfect moment. Progress begins the moment you decide that your future matters more than your comfort, because comfort is easy, but it keeps you stagnant. Growth is uncomfortable, but it pushes you into the life you were meant to live. One step may feel small, but it's the most important step you'll ever take because it breaks the cycle of hesitation. When you commit to that first step, even if it's tiny, you activate a different version of yourself, a version that chooses action over excuses, growth over stagnation, courage over fear. Every time you take one more step, you strengthen that version. Your identity begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and fails, and you start seeing yourself as someone who tries and evolves. And when your identity changes, your destiny changes with it. The energy you bring to each step builds a pattern. Patterns become habits, habits become character, and character becomes the foundation of everything you achieve. There will be days when the progress feels invisible. Days when the steps feel too small to matter, days when you question whether you're moving at all. But remember this, the seed planted underground can't be seen for weeks, sometimes months, yet it's growing the entire time. Your progress works the same way. You may not see it immediately, but the effort is shaping you. It's strengthening your mind. It's developing your discipline. It's preparing you for opportunities you can't even imagine yet. Every small step counts. Every step adds up, and eventually, those steps create a momentum strong enough to carry you through challenges you once thought were impossible to overcome. You don't become unstoppable in a day. You become unstoppable by refusing to give up on the days when progress seems slow. You become unstoppable by showing up when it would be easier to quit. You become unstoppable by deciding that even a small step forward is better than standing still. That's how momentum builds quietly, steadily, patiently. Progress doesn't demand perfection. It demands persistence. It demands consistency. It demands the courage to keep moving forward, even if your steps are small, even if your pace is slow. Because small steps taken consistently have the power to reshape your entire life. And once you begin to move forward, one step at a time, nothing can keep you from becoming the person you are meant to be. Winning the inner war is the key that unlocks everything you've ever wanted in life. People often believe their biggest limitations come from the outside world, from lack of money, lack of time, lack of support, or the obstacles life throws at them without warning. And yes, those challenges are real. They can slow you down, shake you, even break parts of you along the way. But the truth is, none of those external forces have the power to stop you completely. The only thing that can truly defeat you is the resistance that comes from within, the fear, the uncertainty, the self-doubt, the comfort that whispers, "Stay where you are." When you win that battle, the world itself becomes lighter, easier to navigate, and more open to you than ever before. The inner war is the fight between your potential and your excuses. It's the constant pull between the person you want to become and the habits that keep you stuck where you are. This war shows up every morning when the alarm rings and your mind tells you to sleep a little longer. It shows up when you have a goal, but the fear of failing convinces you not to start. It shows up when you know what you need to do, but the voice inside says, "Maybe tomorrow." That voice is powerful, but not because it's right, only because it's familiar. And familiarity is often more comforting than growth. When you finally choose to confront that inner voice, to challenge it instead of obeying it, you begin awakening a strength you didn't know you had. You start realizing that courage isn't loud. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, and determined. Sometimes courage is simply choosing to try again after a setback. Sometimes it's taking a small step when fear is screaming at you to stop. Winning the inner war doesn't mean you never feel scared or uncertain. It means you stop letting those feelings control your life. It means you stop surrendering to the stories that once held you back. The moment you win that inner battle, even once something shifts inside you, you begin to trust yourself more. You begin to respect yourself more. You begin to see that you are stronger than the doubts that try to convince you otherwise. And as that belief grows, so does your power. Suddenly, challenges that once felt overwhelming now feel manageable. Obstacles that used to intimidate you now feel like opportunities to grow. Because when your inner world is strong, the outer world loses its ability to scare you. Think about it. Two people can face the same struggle, but their outcomes depend entirely on the stories they believe about themselves. One person breaks down and gives up because their inner world tells them they're not capable. The other person faces the same struggle and keeps going because their inner world reminds them that they've made it through hard things before. The difference isn't the challenge, it's the inner strength. That is why winning the inner war unlocks everything. It changes how you show up. It changes how you react. It changes how you rise after every fall. When you strengthen your inner world, you become unshakable. You realize that setbacks are temporary. You understand that failure is a part of growth, not a sign that you're unworthy. You learn to keep going even when the path isn't clear, even when progress feels slow, even when you feel alone. And that kind of resilience, the deep, quiet resilience that comes from within, is the most powerful force you can ever develop. Winning the inner war is not a one-time victory, it's a daily practice. Some days you'll win easily, other days the old doubts will try to pull you back, but every time you choose strength over fear, discipline over excuses, and action over hesitation, you win another piece of that war. And with every small victory, you become more aligned with the person you were born to be. Rising, enduring, and evolving is not something that happens naturally or easily. It's a choice you make every single day, often in silence, often without applause, often without anyone noticing the battles you're fighting. It's the decision to keep going even when you're tired, even when the path ahead feels uncertain, even when a part of you wants to return to the comfort of who you used to be. Growth asks you to let go of the old version of yourself, the version that sought safety, the version that avoided risks, the version that settled for less because settling felt easier than facing the discomfort of change. Rising means refusing to stay down after life pushes you to the ground. It's standing up again even when your legs shake. It's choosing strength even when you feel weak. It's understanding that every difficult moment is shaping you into someone more resilient, more capable, more determined than you were yesterday. Enduring is a deeper level of strength. It's staying in the fight when the excitement fades, when motivation disappears, when the results don't show up as quickly as you hoped. Anyone can start, anyone can feel inspired for a moment. But enduring requires a different kind of power. It requires patience, honesty, and commitment. It asks you to keep moving even when the journey becomes slow. It teaches you that consistency matters far more than speed. Endurance is where real transformation occurs because it's in the long stretches of struggle that you develop the toughness you need to stay the course. This is where your character is tested, where your old excuses show up again, and where you must choose between quitting and becoming the person you told yourself you wanted to be. Evolving is the reward for every moment you choose to rise and endure. Evolution isn't loud, it's not announced. It happens gradually, almost invisibly, until one day you look back and realize you've outgrown everything that once limited you. The fears that used to control you lose their power. The doubts that once stopped you begin to fade. The version of you that once settled no longer feels like home. Evolving means allowing yourself to grow without waiting for permission. It means welcoming change instead of fearing it. It means understanding that every challenge, every setback, every painful moment was preparing you to become someone stronger, wiser, and more focused. But this entire journey, rising, enduring, evolving, is not a straight line. You will have days when you feel unstoppable and days when you feel broken. You will have moments of clarity and moments of confusion. You will have victories that make you proud and losses that shake you. And through all of it, your responsibility is to keep choosing the higher version of yourself. Because the path of growth doesn't get easier, you simply get stronger. You learn to carry more. You learn to handle more. You learn to trust yourself more deeply than ever before. The most beautiful part of becoming who you are meant to be is realizing that you don't need to be perfect to grow. You don't need to be fearless to move forward. You don't need to have all the answers to take the next step. What you need is the willingness to rise every time you fall, the patience to endure when progress feels slow, and the courage to evolve even when it means leaving behind everything familiar. You become unstoppable not by avoiding pain, but by learning from it, not by escaping challenges, but by transforming through them. This journey is yours, and only you can walk it. And as long as you continue to rise, endure, and evolve, you will become a version of yourself that your past self never could have imagined, stronger, braver, wiser, and fully aligned with the life you were always meant to create.